Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. Doc, you led us in just perfectly for this discussion I wanted to have about political parties. This is the year. This is the cycle, more so than any in my living memory, although my living memory isn't nearly as long as your living memory. Not even close. Like very, very, very small sample size compared to you.
Unlike my brother Joe, at least I have a memory. At least I remember the 80s.
Just kidding. So you remember the 80s. Joe was having fun. No. So anyway.
I have never known my brother Joe to have fun.
That is.
You know, he married the Fun Sponge, and that's why she got the name. But that's just because she's even.
Hey, let's move on then. So we have
leave our personal laundry at home.
This is the business that we have with this non-establishment stuff. You know, Trump is running on anti-establishment campaign. Bernie Sanders is tapped into some kind of "we hate Democrats" Democrat, which is always good, I suppose. And it is, I think, the question has been addressed by several different kinds of journalists and political scientists and pundits around the country about are we seeing sort of the unwinding of the political establishment itself? Are we seeing the death of the modern Republican Party? Are we seeing the Democrats, a schism form in the Democratic Party that is going to ruin them probably in a few years later after the Republicans implode? And so, Doc, I wanted to get your take on it, but I want to lead in with sort of the thought that it was a quote that I hadn't heard before that Fareed Zakaria mentioned from a political scientist named Clinton Rossiter, who kind of he was kind of a big deal in the 50s and the 60s, but fell out of favor as data and analytics became more the realm of political science and historical analysis, and has only recently been sort of rediscovered as somebody that had some interesting things to say about the party system and about American politics in general. And this is from his book, Parties and Politics in the U.S. And this is something that I thought was pretty interesting. It says, "No America without democracy, no democracy without politics, no politics without parties, no parties without compromise and moderation. So runs the string of assumptions on which hangs this exposition of the politics of American democracy." Basically saying, look, we need, to some extent, we need political parties in this country to make sure that our politics runs smoothly. What do you think about that?
You know, I agree. In fact, I'm going to read a couple of our the responses we had to our post today.
Right.
One by your brother, Devin. Do you have a brother, Devin?
Devin who?
Lubinas.
Oh, my uncle?
Was that your uncle?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start with my old friend, John Ewald. Said political parties are, if I could speak, are inevitable and necessary in a free society. So like-minded people band together to propagate their ideas. There are privately held entities. Unfortunately, we have two of these entities that have come to own our government to become all but indistinguishable from it in the perception of the voter. Good or bad for us? They have, until recently, provided a bulwark against extremism. And what I think he has said is basically both parties have been hijacked by the extremes. And I think we've talked about that before. Then your uncle said, bad idea. This is about Saudi Arabia. More bad ideas from the Congress of BS. It would open up a big can of worms. So I do believe that the political parties do serve a purpose. But much like unions, that purpose has changed, but they have not changed. And I think that they need to start listening to the rest of the people. Your side has their funders, and they control the purse strings, and therefore they control the conversation. My side has our funders, and they can control the purse strings and control the conversation. But the problem is that leaves a vast gulf right in the middle of people that are socially liberal but fiscally conservative, or on your end, socially and fiscally liberal, or all kinds of things in between where they go, well, hold on, I don't know who to vote for. And they really, truly are beginning to look like each other. It really is Napoleon sitting at the table of the humans. That is really what's going on at this point.
What fascinates me about this is that for years, political parties were the folks that picked the nominees for just about everything. no open primaries, no votes of any kind. You had your delegation, you sent your delegations to the different conventions every year, and then they would like their, the people that they like went on certain ballots, and then the country votes, and the Electoral College elects the president, whatever. That's how Dwight Eisenhower got the nomination in 1956, I think, or 1952, whichever, 56.
Well, and that's how Lincoln got the nomination.
Right, picked by the party leadership. And I think that, but in almost every single generation, sometimes more vocally than others, we definitely have seen populist swells and populist uprisings and populist outrage at what's going on in the country. We saw that in 68. We saw that in, this year, in 2016. 68 and 2016 have been compared constantly, almost insanely to a certain degree. There wasn't the kind of social upheaval today that there was in 68 as far as, the civil rights movement, things like that. And definitely we don't have although I suppose that we could compare Iraq and Afghanistan to Vietnam to a certain degree. But, and so what this political scientists are talking about, and I think what your friend was referring to, is that political parties have been a seemingly necessary buffer and maybe a cooling saucer for the momentary passions of the population. And what I find so interesting about this cycle, and maybe this happens every time, populism kind of rears up and starts demanding more things, and hey, you're not listening to us and you got to take our concerns more seriously, is the political parties step back and they say, well, hold on a second. You realize that this is how we've elected presidents since the founding. We're not a pure democracy, and we never have been. Your side likes to tout that a lot. My side likes to tout that a lot when it serves our political aims. But we've always been a representative republic where we elect people popularly to represent our interests, who then vote for us because, as the founding fathers and folks have reaffirmed since then, have said, look, it's the country this size with this kind of a diverse population. We are never going to be able to all get on the same page 100% of the time. We need folks that we trust to do the business of government for us. And that's what the political parties have kind of organized themselves to do. Now, we all remember the quote from George Washington, who I think not necessarily the opposite view, but comes and says, hey, political parties have, they're a problem, or they can be a problem because they can make certain men's agendas I'm butchering the thing. I'm not, I don't have it in front of me, but, well, I did, but here it is. Talking about political parties may now and then answer popular ends. They are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. I think that sums up pretty perfectly what the populist response to this political party conversation would be. Like, hey, we're happy to be involved, but when the leadership is ruining the country, we got to do something about it.
Yes, I would agree. We're up against another break. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Right after this break, we're going to be continuing our talk about what purpose our parties serve. We're going to be going over some of the results. They should be coming in pretty quick. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Without you, we couldn't do what we do. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back right